Hello everyone, and welcome to Scenario A, PBL in the K-12 sector. This is on online learning, and our group members are Allison Clark, Matt Gorlick, Sarah McKillop, and Clelia Sylvie. Now, starting off with online learning in the K-12 sector. The technology revolution in the e-learning segment provides an entire learning management system which supports K-12 learning communities of teachers, students, parents, and administrators with solutions to guide the learner's critical early steps. This is taken from Agrawal in 2015. The internet has become one of the main channels of communication, so it only makes sense that it would be incorporated into the K-12 sector. More information is available not only from learners, but from the educators. This allows the learners to explore and discover information that may not have been available to them in the past. This also goes for educators. For example, educators in smaller communities have access to resources that may not have previously been available to them. And also the growth in support system for educators and parents. Websites, for example, access to educational websites from around the world. Facebook, groups geared towards educators or parents, groups for parents who have children at the same school, etc., etc. Blogs, that would be educational or opinion-based for different topics. Discussion boards, they can definitely be helpful when you're looking at answers to a specific problem that someone else has experience with. And lastly, articles and case studies, which you definitely have access to the articles and case studies from around the world, and you can find many articles and case studies on a lot of topics around the world. Okay, moving on to technology and the K-12 sector again. Well, mobile classroom technology can bridge the gap between classroom and home learning, which is taken from Wainwright, 2013. Today's K-12 sector is more tech-savvy and have more options available to them when it comes to educational technology. There's interactive websites such as TiVo Kids, National Geographic, BrainPop, and Scholastic, and they're generally easy to navigate, which can be a great resource when it comes to learning in and out of the classroom. YouTube, it has a wide variety of channels available on this and for subjects and age groups. The Smithsonian channel, TED Ed channel, Sesame Street, they're all for different age groups for the most part, but they can still have the same thing where they're essentially helping people learn. Apps. In 2019, nearly half the top 100 selling apps targeted preschool or elementary age children. That's taken from Schuler in 2012. And these apps can be Dragonbox, Number Run, Khan Academy, Lumosity, and they're all very decent apps that, like you see in the picture, kids can be using on an iPad and learning at home even while having fun doing it on a Saturday morning even. Okay, moving on. Behaviorism, and these are theories currently used in the K-12 sector. So two of the theories used, there's a couple more, one more. Behaviorism. B.F. Skinner described behaviorism as learning that is governed by invariant principles, and these principles are independent of conscious control on the part of the learner. That's taken from Bates in 2014. This form of teaching is still very dominant in today's classroom, and more so in the younger grades, I would say. Many teachers use a reward system for routine or completion of work or proper classroom behavior, and that's definitely a good thing. For example, good behavior may be rewarded by giving student more time at the computer during recess or center time, or getting a sticker for doing a great job on their work. And then we move on to constructivism, which suggests that humans construct knowledge and meaning from their experiences. Teaching in a constructivist way can be seen when children are placed into groups. This type of learning can also be seen in all grades from K to 12, although in the younger grades the teacher may provide the activity and prompt the children to work on it, where the older grades the students will be given the opportunity to work on it and to choose their group members as well. Moving on, another of the theories continued, as I said before, would be online collaborative learning. And this is OCL, and the theory provides a model of learning in which students are encouraged to support and work together to create knowledge, to invent, to explore ways to innovate, and by doing so to seek the conceptual knowledge needed to solve problems rather than recite what they think is the right answer. That's also taken from Bates in 2014. An example of these would be Google Hangouts, Google Docs, Google Drive, and it's really nice for those because technology is essentially becoming more and more useful every year, which I find is definitely a good thing. Moving on, commonalities and differences. So the commonalities between K to 12 and government learning and corporate learning and higher education learning, those are the four that we're all learning right now in these presentations. Well, I noticed a lot of us are doing either the K to 12 or higher education, and government learning can be stuff like smart serves, and corporate learning can be stuff as even online sexual harassment documents, which I know that's a very rough one, but I just went with it because it is one. They all want to build knowledge upon the learners in a timely manner where they can influence questions and comments while being able to relate to their fellow students or coworkers. They'll generally have online activities that you have to work on in your own time or in group work. And I found that the corporate and K to 12 learning are more paid for generally, whereas government and higher education, you're going to have to pay for that. Obviously, we all paid for our tuition, unless you got a scholarship, but that's still paid somehow. And like government would be Smart Serve certification, which still have to pay for it. You can't really get it for free. Moving on, so we're going to take a second here, and I'm going to show you guys something. So there were 1,000 experts in the USA that were asked to choose two possible scenarios that would describe the likely impact of the internet on higher education system. Now, with this here, it was taken over 5 years ago, so they're still thinking, oh my god, 10 years down the line, so to speak. But one says higher education in 2020 will not be much different from the way it is today. And the other is going on how higher education will be quite different from the way it is today, saying that there will be a transition to hybrid classes that combine online learning components with less frequent on-campus in-person class meetings. Now, is that happening more? Yes, but is it going to have a high impact on it? What do you guys think? If we had a class vote right now, I want you to take a sec, just think to yourself, and think about it for the two. So, 39% agreed with the scenario that articulated modest change by the end of the decade, where most people, well, not most, but 60% agreed with a scenario outlining more change. I would definitely, back in the time, I would have thought, oh yeah, with technology going like crazy, I could see why there is 60%, but I can't see us ever going into a hybrid in the K to 12 sector, especially for the younger grades, because you can't have kids going home and learning at home when they're 7, 8 years old, because there's always going to be that need when parents are gone and all that stuff. Although it might create more jobs for more nannies, but that's just something I couldn't see personally. So moving on to major reviews in Canada. Unfortunately, there's been a lack of research for K to 12 online learning in Canada, was almost non-existent, and that's taken from Barber, MK, and Labonte in 2015. Online learning is really hard to implement if you don't have the information to back it up. Although in this case there are still provinces that are supporting this strategy. For example, the Ontario Ministry of Education has an e-learning section in their website that provides information about blended learning, online resource options for grade 12, and also states their roles and responsibilities. I know the Teachers Union in Canada, it can be supportive of the online learning for K-12 as well. They provide learning opportunities for students who may not be able to receive it at school that they are attending. On the other hand, they're cautious about it. They know that the more online learning that is developed means the less in-class teacher instruction that will be available, which is what I was kind of saying in the previous slide. Moving on, again, major reviews in the U.S. So in the U.S., information sharing with all K-12 decision makers and leaders on all issues that concern deployment and development of e-learning is seen as a major priority. That's also taken from Agrawal in 2015. Now, originally, the NEA, or National Education Association, was supportive of online learning until they switched their views to blended learning. They believe this type of learning would be the best approach and is what students need. This is to ensure the students' professional development. It's to ensure the students. It's also for professional development for teachers, and it's very important for online learning that it takes a different type of learning style than traditional classrooms. Policymakers see virtual schools as the way of reducing expenditures. This could affect the quality of the online courses that can be available to the K-12 sector. It should be equally funded between online and traditional courses. And then the stakeholders in Michigan are supportive towards online learning and set up recommendations in the K-12 sector. They want to ensure that children know about the online options they have, receive the required support to be successful in the course, and constant reviews of online learning so the course is conducted properly, which is a fair thing to say. And then for the next 3 pages here, we have all of our references, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. Apologies on it being 2 minutes over.